everyone, and welcome back to End Zone Analytics. And today we will be predicting the Week 5 of NFL. Let's get right into it. Let's start with Thursday Night Football. We have the San Francisco 49ers taking on the LA Rams. The 49ers struggled last week during Brock Purdy's return. Brock Purdy really struggled last week, creating 3 turnovers, and he just didn't look comfortable and still showed that his injury is affecting him. And for the defense, without Nick Bosa, didn't even touch Trevor Lawrence and ended up losing. The Rams last week looked like a complete football team in a win against the Colts. Matthew Stafford looked great with his receivers, and it showed. With them getting multiple touchdowns, that defense also really pressured Adai Mitchell and got turnovers off of him. With this, I have it being a competitive game, but the Rams come out on top. Now we have our first Sunday game, international. We have the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Cleveland Browns. The Vikings had a bad game. Carson Wentz looked like what we thought he would look like, a backup, and the offense couldn't keep up with Aaron Rodgers. And his offense also, that defense, did keep it close during the start and then slowly let Aaron Rodgers go down the field. The Browns had another bad week. Joe Flacco should not be the starter anymore for the season. Shedeur Sanders looked good during the preseason, and he would look good if he started. And for that defense, they are still great, and I think it's a factor in this game. I think the Browns defense wins this game. I take the Browns. Next, we have the Dallas Cowboys taking on the New York Jets. The Cowboys finally looked good against the Packers. Dak Prescott is looking like he's back to that 2023 self. The defense, though, is still horrible. Jordan Love almost had no trouble scoring touchdowns on that Cowboys defense. But the Jets got Justin Fields back and had some flashes. Justin Fields looked back up to pace and did great passing and rushing the ball. The running game with Breece Hall definitely still developing. And for the defense, they need to get better. They let Dolphins QB Tua Tagovailoa beat them down with this. I have the Dallas Cowboys blowing out the Jets, but I'll still be looking out for my guy, Justin Fields. Now, we have the New York Giants taking on the New Orleans Saints. The Giants had an amazing last week upset against the Chargers. Jackson Dart in his first start looked great. He had a rushing touchdown and a lot of great passes. Their defense also just demoralized Justin Herbert, picking him off multiple times and limiting touchdowns, and giving them the upset. Now for the Saints, they did lose last week to the Bills. Even though they lost, they were able to put up some points against that crazy Bills defense. Spencer Rattler had a hard time passing the ball, though. He didn't turn the ball over. He had under 150 yards. This matchup is very winnable for both teams, but I have the New York Giants defense destroying Spencer Rattler and giving them the win. Next, we have the Las Vegas Raiders taking on the Indianapolis Colts. The Raiders choked in a loss to the Bears on another blocked field goal. Geno Smith had his second game throwing 3 interceptions. His offense wasn't horrible besides him. Ashton Gentry finally had a breakout game with over 100 yards. The defense, or Max Crosby, did great. Crosby blocked and caught his own ball and overall pressured the QB like hell. But they ended up losing to the Ben Johnson offense. The Colts took their first loss to the Rams last week. The game was great until Adai Mitchell showed up. He fumbled in the end zone, caused an interception, and a lot more. Daniel Jones and his offense didn't look bad besides Mitchell. And I hope they continue this in Week 5. That defense could not even grasp covering Puka Nacua, though, and led to the loss. With this, I do still have the Colts winning. Following that, we have the Miami Dolphins taking on the Carolina Panthers. The Dolphins picked up their first win, but at the cost of what? Tyreek Hill's season. Mike McDaniels got the run game going really well with Devon Achane. Overall, that offense looks good, but it could be great. The Panthers had another harsh loss coming to the Patriots, but Bryce Young just might not be their franchise quarterback. That offense is even worse than it was at the start of last season. Hubbard is not rushing the ball well at all. One of the reasons why they lost. The defense is also not doing good, letting up over 20 points last week to the Patriots, and they haven't been turning the ball over the right way or putting pressure on the QB. This game is hard to predict, but I will give the edge to the Dolphins. Dolphins win. Next, we have the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Denver Broncos. The Eagles took another sloppy win to the Bucs. The Eagles are still having trouble passing the ball to their two-star receivers, but they're having no time rushing, with already several rushing touchdowns this season. The defense has been really good. The whole team hasn't been playing a full quarter football, though, and this leads to them almost losing multiple times. The Broncos blew out the Joe Burrow-less Bengals on Monday Night Football. Bo Nix is finally starting to look like his former rookie self, and his offense played lights out, even though it was against the horrible Bengals defense. Overall, if Bo Nix plays good for all four quarters, they will win, but I have the Eagles taking it. Now we have the Houston Texans taking on the Baltimore Ravens. The Texans last week got their first win of the season against the Titans. He finally had a complete game and threw over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. The whole team looked complete and shut out the Titans. The defense with Will Anderson is still looking like a top 10 defense. And now for the Ravens, it's panic time. They're only 1-3 and Lamar is injured. And also, Derrick Henry is looking kind of washed. But the defense isn't any better. They gave up last week against the Chiefs. But even with all that, the Texans beat the Titans out of all teams. And even if Lamar doesn't start, which he won't be, Derrick Henry will literally carry the game. I have the Ravens winning in a close one. Next, we have a matchup between the Tennessee Titans and the Arizona Cardinals. The Titans are officially the worst team in football. Cam Ward is not playing well. That O-line, the defense cannot stop any players in this league. This team is terrible and will be lucky to win another game with Brian Callahan. The Cardinals keep having injuries. First, James Conner, now Trey Benson. They are just unlucky with their running back room. Besides, that offense didn't do horrible last week, and neither did the defense. Kyler gave up some throws away to the defense, and that's about it. The game will most likely be a blowout. Cardinals win. Next, we have a potential game of the week. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Seattle Seahawks. The Bucs look strong against the Eagles, but in the second half, they couldn't get much of anything going. Baker did up playing pretty well besides that one costly pick. Bucky Irving has been that guy for the Bucs and is currently their lead rusher and receiver. The defense had its moments, but let a lot of scores through. Now for the Seahawks, who are looking at winning their division, Sam Darnold is still playing like his Viking self. And that whole offense is just amazing, averaging 24 points a game. So the defense has been pretty efficient throughout the first 4 games too. I have the winner of this game being the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a close one. Next, we have the Detroit Lions taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. The Lions had a great game against the Browns last week. Jared Goff had a great game passing the ball against that amazing Browns defense. But let's talk about the Lions defense. With Aiden Hutchinson, made the Browns make their final decision to bench Joe Flacco. He had two terrible throws that led to interceptions. And now for the Bengals, they need to sign a new quarterback. Jake Browning is not the right backup for Burrow. If they don't, there might be a chance they won't win another game. And that Bengals defense is not going to change that either, being the worst in the offense. Hopefully the Lions don't blow them out too badly. Lions win. Next, we have the Washington Commanders taking on the LA Chargers. The Commanders had a bad loss last week to the Falcons with Marcus Mariota. But not to worry, Jaden Daniels is here. I think the offense is going to be the best. Jaden Daniels is going to come back and dominate. He will finally start throwing to his receivers more and get more yards, more touchdowns, and more everything. The Chargers had a hard loss to the Giants. Justin Herbert made 2 bad interceptions, which cost the game. The defense struggled against the rookie Jackson Dart in his debut, and that's something you don't want to have on your resume. And I think the Commanders will upset the Chargers in a close game. Commanders win. Now we have our Sunday night football game. We have the New England Patriots taking on the Buffalo Bills. The Patriots had a dominating game against the Panthers. Drake May is starting to look like the QB they want him to look like. The defense is looking better every week and will be a factor in this game. But the Bills are looking like Super Bowl champs every week. Josh Allen is looking like the MVP, and overall, that offense is just looking crazy good. And that defense, even though they let Spencer Rattler score 18 points in them last week, it's still a top 10 defense in football. This game might be really good or a blowout by the Bills, but the Bills are still the Bills. I have the Bills winning. Now we have the final game of the week on Monday Night Football. We have the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Chiefs had a dominant game against the Ravens. Mahomes looked like a great quarterback throughout the last few games, including last week. And adding Xavier Worthy looked like it really impacted their offense and led them to that win. Now for the Jaguars, they looked amazing against the 49ers and ended up winning in the upset against Trevor Lawrence. Has been a top 15 QB so far this season and has been the leader of this team with Travis Etienne. The defense hasn't been crazy, but they have been good enough where they have been stopping teams in moments where they are needed. With this, I have the Jaguars taking on a big upset and winning. Well, everyone, that is it for today's predictions. Thank you for tuning in. This is End Zone Analytics, signing off.